Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are looking at the DraftKings and Fanduel Week 3 NFL First Look picks. We have a 13-game slate for Sunday. It's a lot of top options. There's a lot of different ways to go, so we'll kind of discuss some of the guys at the top of each position and some of the value that we have at each position. Let's get started. As always, if you enjoy the videos, please share with the like button, subscribe if you have not already. Not a very good Week 2. Looking to bounce back for Week 3. Still got plenty of weeks to go, so not worried. Just things didn't go our way. It happens. It's going to happen. All you can do is move on and move forward to the next week. So let's get started. Looking at the Vegas totals this week, you got a lot of teams north of 25 projected points. Buffalo's at almost 30 already against Miami, followed by the Vikings. They're at almost 30 as well, going up against the Lions. And after not showing up at all against the Eagles on Monday Night Football, but that's to be expected. I mean, primetime Kirk Cousins, he's not going to show out. Now he's going to be back at home against a Lions team that has surrendered north of 70 combined points to their opponent so far this year, and they've given up some monstrous games to receivers, to running backs. They gave up, so far they have given up 65 total. I think that's 65 total points. Commanders were only able to put up 27 against them. But Wentz threw for 3 touchdowns, threw for over 330 yards. And then in week 1, the Eagles ran all over them. So the Vikings, after getting embarrassed on Monday Night Football, think they'll be able to bounce back and put up some points. So they look appealing. They have a higher total than the Chiefs going up against the Colts, which is kind of surprising. But then we also have the Chargers here. Justin Herbert, I think, will be able to play, but he's currently listed as day-to-day. The Eagles are in there. We've seen the Washington football team, or the Washington Commanders, also give up some big fantasy games already this year in the first 2, giving up a lot of points. And then we have the battle of the NFC West with the Rams and the Cardinals. Rams have a high total. And then the Dolphins, coming off of that crazy comeback win, they also have a 24-point total. So there is going to be a lot of teams to look at and a lot of stacks. At quarterback on DraftKings, your top end is Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Mahomes, Hurts, Herbert, Murray. There's no top guy that's really not in here, so you have all the top guys to pick from. If you are looking to pay up, I think Hurts still is probably one of my favorites at 76. Nobody really, Lamar Jackson will give you that rushing upside. Josh Allen didn't really run in week 2, and then Mahomes doesn't run too much unless he has to. But Hurts looks to get into the end zone with his legs. He already has 3 rushing touchdowns in the first 2 weeks. So if you're looking at any of these top 4 quarterbacks just based on price tag, I like Hurts, followed by Josh Allen. Lamar Jackson, although he did have a crazy great game last week, he still has the toughest matchup out of the top 4 against the Patriots on the road. So he would be the 4th guy out of the top 4, and then Mahomes would be 3rd. Going into the bottom end of the 7K range, I like Murray more than Murray. Surprised with a nice second half, leading them to a great comeback win, which they needed. But if Herbert's not 100%, and go Murray. 6K range, I'd rather go into the 5K range, honestly, but 6K range, we have Stafford and Carson Wentz. He's been one of the best fantasy quarterbacks in the first 2 weeks, averaging 32 fantasy points and throwing 7 touchdowns. He already has 3 interceptions, but he's been producing, getting his receivers involved, and it should be a shootout. They probably will be trailing in this game, so we could see him throw a lot again. End of 6K and 5K range, like Brady's only 6K. His price tag has come way down. We'll see if he gets some of his receivers back. Evans is appealing a suspension, and then Godwin, we'll see if he's able to go this week. If it is, it'll be a nice help for Brady. And then at the 5K range, you have some guys I like Jared Goff. You can play him and stack him with like Swift and St. Brown if you wanted to do that. We also have Mariota is at 55 going up against Seattle, which is a good matchup. And so far, Seattle's given up bottom 7, 8 in both passing and rushing yards, giving up almost 400 plus yards, or giving up over 400 yards a game and almost 22 points per game. I think Mariota could be that sleeper quarterback this week that gets overlooked and will save you some money and still has the ability to put up north of 20 fantasy points. Looking at his first 2 matchups, he's had some difficult matchups. Defensively, going up against the Rams last week, still was respectable with the 16 fantasy points. And then week 1, the Saints do have a pretty stout defense as well and put up 21 and a rushing touchdown. And the reason I can take a shot with him because he also will give you that rushing upside with his legs and can get into the end zone with his legs. So Mariota's probably my go-tos in the 5K range just because he's super affordable and I have more confidence in him than a lot of these other guys just based on the matchup. Moving on to running back, we have Taylor at the top end, 9,000. He was such a disappointment on week 2. The Colts offense, hopefully they get Pittman back because they looked lost without him. The receivers couldn't get open except for Doolin, and Taylor also they were just stacking the box against him, so he couldn't get open or couldn't get any room to run. We have Henry's probably my least favorite out of the top 4. I would probably rank it like Taylor in a bounce back spot, Eckler, then McCaffrey, then Henry. Dalvin Cook's also been disappointing so far in the first 2 weeks. He has no touchdowns. He's averaging 10 fantasy points. It's a great bounce back spot against the Lions, but I'm not sure if I still feel good about him, but Jefferson will take some touchdowns away. Irv Smith might take some touchdowns away. And they still have Thielen there, so if they're going to turn into like a passing team after being a rushing team a lot, then I'm not too interested in Cook. We have a lot of guys in the 6K range that I like. Kamara's questionable at 7K. If he plays, he looks appealing. Swift, being on a pitch count last week, he got just 10 touches, but he had a touchdown and he broke off another 50-plus yard run. But 6K range is strong once again at running back. We have Gibson, who could have had 2 touchdowns. He fell short at the one. He had 2 looks inside the 3, and he wasn't able to cash in. And then Fournette's at 65. I like him a lot at this price tag going up against the Packers. If you're not on Twitter, he did tweet that touchdowns are coming. Not sure if he can control that too much, but maybe he tells Brady to give him a touchdown opportunity when they're inside the goal line. Red zone situations. He has just 4 receptions, so that should increase. He's still getting a lot of touches. You can look for touches for running back, 26 and 23 touches going into week 3 against Green Bay, who's not looked as stout as they have in years past. So Fournette looks strong. And then another guy in the 6K range I like is Edwards-Helaire, Gibson. Both guys are appealing. Go with Edwards-Helaire right now. He does split some time with McKinnon, but Edwards-Helaire is starting, and he's played very well. He left the game momentarily last week, but he still came back and had some nice plays. He did have a long run that was called back with the penalty, so that hurt him a little bit. But overall, he played 44% of snaps. McKinnon played 47, but the rookie didn't play much at all. So if it is just 2 guys, if he just has to worry about McKinnon much, then I think Edwards-Helaire will still get the touches. He got 12 after getting just 10 in week 1, but he got 12 after missing a little bit of time, so possibly can get like 13 to 15, which will be nice. Gibson is another guy that you can go to instead at 64 against the Eagles. And then 5K range, we have Henderson. The Akers got a lot of touches, so if it's going to be split, tough to trust there. But I like Patterson against Seattle at 58. We have Montgomery at 59 against Houston. Both of these guys have good matchups, and Patterson's in a bounce-back spot. And then Miles Sanders at 55. Always risk of him not getting into the end zone just because Hurts will run it in. But do have like the touches so far. 20 touches yesterday, and then he got 15 in week 1, so he's getting involved in the offense, which is good to see. Wide receivers, we have a lot to pick from at the top end, so I really do want to pay up for some receivers today or for this week. At top end, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp. Kupp is 99. Jefferson's cheaper at 93 by $600, and even though Slay was able to shut him down, he still got 12 targets, combined 23 targets. I'm looking for targets now as we head into week 3. Really, Thielen will get some, Irv Smith will get some, but Jefferson, after did kind of get embarrassed, I'd say, by Darius Slay, going out now up against Detroit, a team that he should own, and the Vikings should put up a lot of points against them. Really tough to fade Jefferson if you're looking at anybody above 9K. I like Devontae Adams. I like Diggs as well. Diggs probably be very popular. We'll see if Davis is back. If he's not back, then love Diggs. If Davis is back, then you can go to Davis instead. At just 63, he would be a great value. Another guy that has completely crushed so far, and even last year he's been crushing, has been Amara St. Brown, who's now 24 targets, 12 in each one. And then last week he even got involved on the ground with 68 yards. He had a 58-yard run. He's being heavily utilized in red zone situations. He's Goff's go-to guy when they're inside the red zone and they're throwing. So I'm going to go with him as well. look to pay up for some receivers. I think the Dolphins might be popular this week, although the Bills' defense is scary. Like, the Bills' offense is super scary. Their defense is also very stout, and if people are stacking the Dolphins, then it could be a high-scoring game, but there's also still a decent chance that the Bills just roll like they have been rolling, and it turns into a blowout. But Waddle at 68 would be interesting. If Pittman is back, $6,900, he looks solid. And then if you're looking to stack some Eagles, and this Washington Commanders-Eagles game should be high-scoring, you have A.J. Brown there as well. In the bottom 7K range, I would probably still go with Brown as my favorite, or St. Brown is my favorite, then Brown, then Hill, then Pittman at 69. 6K range, besides like Gabe Davis, so not too much interest. Got some questionable guys with Godwin and Keenan Allen. We'll see if their guys are able to play. And McLaurin's kind of taken a hit this year so far with the great play of the guys that they acquired in Curtis Samuel and the rookie Jahan Dotson. Both guys have crushed so far this year. And speaking of the Commanders, we do have a great price tag on Curtis Samuel, another guy that's had over 9 targets he had 9 targets last week, 11 in week 1, touchdowns in both, even gotten some rushing yards. He has 5 rushing attempts, so he's being utilized heavily. And looking at their snap counts from week 2, Jahan Dotson barely came off the field, 99% of snaps, and McLaurin and Curtis Samuel both played 89, so it's basically just 3 receivers that they're playing. Nobody else is, you don't have to worry about a 4th or 5th receiver catching a touchdown pass very often. They just got less than 12% of snaps. So these 6 I really like. I haven't paired Mariota with anybody, but you do have a couple options. You have Patterson if you wanted to go with a running back, but really Drake London's looked really good last week. He's 58. He might get more attention, but hopefully this is a week that Kyle Pitts is able to break out, and he's $4,800. His price tag is one of the lowest it's been. He has 10 targets first 2 weeks combined, only 4 catches for just 19 yards in each one. But I feel like Pitts' breakout might be coming. Even though the coach said they're trying to win games, it's not fantasy football. But they haven't been winning games. Maybe they should try getting Kyle Pitts involved, and would not be surprised if he has a good game. Problem is you also have a lot of other good tight ends this week, like Travis Kelce. If you're looking to pay off for anybody, it's definitely him. We have Pitts in the mid-range if you're willing to take a shot. Might be a little bit risky, but then you have like Goddard who's going to get involved heavily. You have Higbee who's had a ton of targets with Van Jefferson not able to play the first 2, and he gets a good matchup against Arizona. We have Dawson Knox at 41, and then even in the 3K range, like you have Logan Thomas who got a touchdown, and Irv Smith who could have had 2 touchdowns, but he's been involved as well, and he got more snaps in week 2 as you'd expect, and he probably will get even more. He got 44%, or he got actually 56% of snaps, so that's good to see after being out-snapped by Munt in week 1 and outplayed by him. So it's a good spot to go to. So definitely Irv Smith is looking like a guy that we can look to at 31, and those are like my favorites. Looking over at defense this week, looking always to get to a cheap defense if I can. We have the Lions, if you're willing to take a shot if you're not going to play some of the Vikings, but they're risky because the Lions defense, unless they get like Aiden Hutchinson racking up some sacks, which is possible, or Kirk Cousins turns back into himself like he did yesterday, I still think the Vikings will put up points after being embarrassed, so expect this one to shoot out. However, if you play a lot of teams, you can mix in some Lions. But really probably my favorite one that's cheap would be the Falcons. They're at 27 on the road against Geno Smith, and Geno Smith came back down to earth a bit last week, and Falcons defense racked up 4 sacks in week 1. They did get up some fantasy points in a tough spot on the road against the Rams, and now they get a very soft matchup against the Seahawks. I think they can put up some points at 27. So they'd be a team I look at. We know Winston struggling with a back injury. You can possibly look at the Panthers and hope that he turns it over. The Texans against Fields in that still very poor offense. In the Bears. So you got 3 really cheap defenses to look at. Not looking to pay up for a defense unless something changes. So that's about it for the DraftKings first look. Let's take a look at FanDuel. So on FanDuel, this is kind of what I'm looking at. Some similar plays. The receivers I have are the same. But on FanDuel, the quarterback, it's a lot easier to pay up for a quarterback just because the pricing is a lot tighter. Like on DraftKings, you have basically a $2,000 to $3,000 difference between the top guys, and then the values like Mariota's 55. You have Hurts at 76, so that's like $100 difference. Whereas on FanDuel, Hurts is 81, Mariota is 73. It's less than $800 difference. So it's easier to pay up. So might as well get to the guy that I think will be the highest scorer based on the price tag and probably be one of the better point per dollar plays in Jalen Hurts at 81. At running back, if you're not looking to break the bank for these top guys, I do like to pay up for receivers more than running backs at times. And we do have some decent values. Still, like Fournette's 72. He's still pretty affordable for a guy getting 20 to 25 touches and has opportunities to rack up some receiving yards. Hasn't really done that yet, but that can happen, and he can have multiple touchdowns. So Fournette's a guy that I like. And then Gibson at 67 is also very cheap for the amount of touches he'll get and still being looked at. The goal line work he's getting, as well as some passing down work he can catch, even though McKissick will be mixed in. But second down, first down, if Wentz decides to throw, you can look to Gibson in the flat. Pay up a little bit for Kamara if he's able to play. He's only $7K. One of the cheapest price tags you'll get for Kamara all season. Receivers, I still Jefferson and Kupp, coin flip, but do like Jefferson. Given the matchup, they should put up a ton of points against the Lions. So he's my favorite pay up. Followed by like Devontae Adams. Diggs, depending on Gabriel Davis, would be third guy. Like Amara St. Brown, just based on the price tag, and if I'm stacking up some Vikings, he's the perfect bring back. If it is going to be a shootout, you'd expect. And if Jefferson has a big game, hopefully Brown will have a big game as well. So that's probably my favorite game stack is the Lions. The Vikings, we have some other ones, like the Eagles Commanders game could be a blowout. I mean, not a blowout, could be a shootout, possibly a blowout. Buffalo, Miami, it could also be a blowout, but it can also be a shootout. So these are the teams and games I'm looking to stack if I can. So 3 really good wide receivers. Curtis Samuel, super cheap at 63. If he's going to continue to get double-digit targets, I'll be very interested. Dotson at 6K. He's gotten less targets. He's gotten good fantasy production because of his touchdowns. But for 300 more, I like Samuel, but I don't mind if you want to take John Dotson instead. Then we have Robinson finally was able to get into the end zone and get involved in the offense after doing nothing in week 1, so that was good to see. He's at 6K. If you wanted to take a shot with him, it's fine. We have some other guys in 6K range that look appealing with Devontae Smith, Dotson, Thielen, so he's not alone in being a good value. Tight ends, once again, Kelsey, if you're looking to pay up, he's only 100 more than Andrew, so definitely he looks great as the best pay up. Pitts at 56, still, if you're willing to take shots, like you don't want to miss a breakout game for Pitts. 56 is very cheap on FanDuel as well. Then you have like Dawson Knox at 53, and then you have Irv Smith at 5K for value. It's a pretty good tight end slate. You could even go double tight ends, go cheap with a couple of cheap tight ends, and then pay up for your receivers like here, pay up for a quarterback, get you some solid running backs, and hope your tight ends can have good games and maybe get into the end zone. And then for defense, once again, like going with the values at the bottom, once again, I do like the Falcons at $3,700. We have nothing really looks that appealing here. Not the Seahawks, not looking at that much. I think the Falcons will put up some points, but the Falcons, possibly the Eagles, if you're not playing any of the Commanders. We have the Chiefs. If Pittman is out, you can look to the Chiefs because Ryan has looked awful so far, except for when he's had Pittman in week 1. He looked okay, but still wasn't looking great. Pay up a little bit more, see where the Panthers are. They're 39. They look interesting against Winston with his turnover issues and the bad back. But that's kind of it. If you're looking to pay up for over 4K, like the Bills, 46 for all the talent that they have. They're like the 5th cheapest defense, or the 5th most expensive defense. So they look solid. But pretty much what I got, the 6 guys looking to get to the teams and the games that I expect to be high scoring. Get to the receivers that I know will get targeted. Not going to mess around much this week. So that's what I got for first look. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more videos throughout the week. And I'll see you all next time.